Welcome back to the Lightsaber series here on a Lettuce Garden. So today we're going to be talking about scripting the damage and how to script in the ignition sequence for the lightsaber when the player clicks a button. And if you're new to this channel, then if you head over to our group and find the game there, you can click on the game, click on the three dots in the top right corner, click on edit, and you'll get access to all the scripts and resources in this video. Let's first start with scripting in the damage, because that's pretty easy. So we're just going to come up to our lightsaber in our starter pack, click the plus button, and type in script. Make sure it's not a local script, it has to be a normal script, because if it's not a normal script, it won't damage people in the server. It'd only damage people on your screen, which means that it wouldn't actually damage the person on their screen, so they wouldn't actually be able to die from your lightsaber hits. So you have to make sure it's a normal script. We could talk about filter enabled and whatnot in a later video, but that's the reason why it has to be a normal script. So at first, we're going to create a new variable for the tool. So local tool equals script.parent, because if you remember, script is this object and .parent is the lightsaber. And we're going to have to add in, so let's come back to our workspace here. We're going to have to add in a new part on our lightsaber where the blade would be. So if we just drag our lightsaber up into workspace, come on over to it, we're going to open up our lightsaber in the Explorer menu. We're going to highlight the handle and then do Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste. Select your scale tool in the Home tab, and then just drag it up so it's the same size as your particle emitter. Then we're going to name this part Blade, drag it in to the lightsaber, make transparency to 1, and while we're here, we're also going to turn off these two particle emitters by just setting enabled to false. And now we're going to drag lightsaber back into starter pack, come back into our script, and now we'll do tool wait for child blade dot touched connect function, and then we're going to put hit inside the parentheses. So what we're doing here is we're taking the lightsaber, which we named as tool variable. We're waiting for the blade object to be created by Roblox, and then we're detecting when the blade part gets touched. So when an enemy touches it, when you hit something with it, and then hit is the part that your lightsaber hit. So for example, if we swing our lightsaber and it hits this part here, that will be what gets returned as this hit variable. So in order to make sure that what we hit was an actual player, you have to make sure that the hit.parent has a humanoid. So in this example, if it was this right upper arm, as we can see in this Explorer menu, so right upper arm.parent would be the dummy, and then .humanoid. So each character in game has a humanoid in it. So as long as our hit.parent has a humanoid in it, then we know it's a character. So we have to check that. So if .parent find first child humanoid, then. So then we can do sorry, ignore that. So then we can just do hit.parent humanoid take damage, and then we're going to create a damage variable up here. So I want my lightsaber to do 20 damage. And we're going to just take this damage variable and put it in to the hit.parent.humanoid take damage. So let's test this out. And remember, I turned off the particles earlier, so you're not going to actually see the particles. But we can still play the animation. And it's not working. Find first. Oh, I You guys probably caught that. Find first child should just be find first child, not find first child. And then we'll bring this back in. And when we come over to the dummy and swing, he gets damaged. Awesome. Yes, the horrible animations we made last video. So now we have to create a way to turn on our lightsaber. For example, when you click the Q button. So we're going to add in a remote event inside our lightsaber. And we're going to come over to our local script. And the very, very top, we're going to take in local UIS equals game get service user input service, and down here we're going to do UIS input began connect function input processed. So what we're doing here is we're determining when a player clicks a button on their keyboard, whether it's on an Xbox or computer, like PC. This won't detect mobile input, but that's okay because we have a workaround for that we'll get to in a little bit. So first is we have this input variable and this processed variable that gets passed through when the input began event is fired. So input is where we're going to determine which button they clicked, and processed is how we determine if the person was typing when they hit this button, because if they're typing and they hit the Q button, we don't want their lightsaber to turn on because they're typing, they shouldn't be actively interacting with stuff in the game. So we have to make sure that the processed, if it is processed by the game, then we're just going to return, which means that we're just going to stop the code because they're typing or they're interacting with another text box or whatever, and we don't want to continue the code. But if they're not typing, then we have to check to see if the input .keycode is equal to enum.keycode, and we want a Q in this case. And if that's the case, then let's print player pressed Q. And if we test this now, so if we click Q on our keyboard, you'll see in the output player pressed Q shows up. Now we want that to only happen if the lightsaber is currently equipped. So let's come back over to our local script, and we're going to add in two new functions. So tool.equipped connect function, and then we're just going to copy this, bring it down here, unequipped connect. So when the player first pulls out the tool, this code will run, and when they put it back into their backpack, this code here will run. And then we're going to create a new variable underneath the last tack, and it's just going to be called equipped. Wow, I cannot spell. Equipped, and then we're just going to initialize it to false. When the player pulls it out, we're going to turn equipped to true, and when they put it back, it's going to be false. And then in our if statement here, where we're checking to see if the button was Q, we can do and equipped. So if the button is Q and it's equipped, then we will print that the player clicked Q. So if I click Q now, nothing will happen, but if we pull out the lightsaber and click Q, it will show up every time I click Q. Now we're going to come back to our code and add in a new variable, local on, and we're going to initialize that to false. And this will manage if the lightsaber beam is on or off. So in our code, we're going to get rid of this print statement, and then we're going to do, let's make this a bit bigger, if on, then else end. So what we're doing here is we're saying if the lightsaber is currently on, then we're going to turn it off. If it's not currently on, then we want to turn it on. Alright, so now we're going to create these two new functions that we just stated down below. Local function turn off, local function turn on. And here we're going to turn on to true and on to false. But we're also going to take make use of this remote function or remote event that we added in earlier. So tool.remote event fire server false. I'm just going to copy and paste this down here. True. So when they turn it off, it's going to tell the remote event to fire false, and when they turn it on, it's going to tell it to turn true. And this is how we're going to determine if the particles should turn on or the particles should turn off, because that has to be controlled by the server so all players can see it. So if we come back to our script, our normal server script, and then we type in tool dot, and then we're going to do wait for child here for remote event, just to make sure that the remote event is actually created by Roblox when we're calling for it. And then we're going to do on server event connect function player and then state. So when the client is telling the server to fire, it's going to pass through the player that fired it and the state that we sent. So in this case, it would send, if we did turn off, it would send false, so state would be false. So we'll do if state, then else. So if state, that means we want to turn on the lightsaber. So tool.emitter.inner.enabled equals true, and then tool.emitter.outer.enabled equals true. And in the else, we're just going to copy and paste that and change true to false. And if we test this now, if we click Q, our lightsaber will turn on, and when we click Q again, it turns off. Excellent. Now, I'm sure you guys noticed that the beam of the lightsaber looks kind of strange. When it turns off, it just kind of fades up. Well, we don't want that. So, to fix this, when we do false, we are going to set the tool.emitter.inner.parent to nil. Or we're going to save that first. So, local inner equals, and I'm just going to move this up. So we're creating the new variable for the emitter, the inner emitter, which is the color of your lightsaber, and we're going to set the parent to nil. And we're going to copy and paste this, and do the same thing for outer. And then we have to make sure that inner and outer are set to enabled equals false. And then we're going to wait for, let's say, 2 seconds. And we're going to set the parents. So inner.parent, outer.parent equals tool.emitter equals tool.emitter. We're actually going to move these two variables out of the function and get rid of all these spaces because it makes it look more beautiful. We're also going to move them above that function. And instead of doing this long code, we're just going to do inner.enabled and outer.enabled here. So what's happening now is we've created these two new variables for the inner and outer particle emitters. When we turn it on, we're going to turn the emitter to, or the inner and outer to true. And when it's false, oh, sorry, we should have kept these parent statements inside the function. So we're going to set inner.parent to nil, outer.parent to nil, which means nothing. They'll just disappear. And then we're going to turn them off at the same time, and then we're going to wait 2 seconds and then put them back inside the lightsaber. So what's going to happen now is when we turn it on, it's going to look like it's turned on, and when we turn it off, it's just going to instantly disappear. Turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Awesome. So that takes care of turning on and turning off our lightsaber. And I also noticed that we are able to still attack when our lightsaber is off. So now we're going to come up here to our tool.activated, and if not on, then return 10. So let's make sure that we can only play. So if the lightsaber is not on, then we're going to return, which means if the lightsaber is not on, we can no longer do our attack animations. So let's test this out. And now the lightsaber isn't on, I can't attack. Now that it's on, I can play my animations. Awesome. Alright, and that's it for today's tutorial. If you liked it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. If you need help, come over to the Discord and type in the tutorial help channel, and one of either me or one of the other staff will come and help you. And if you want a free copy of all the scripts and resources used in this video, check out the link in the description. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.